What's good, football fans? Back at you once again with another video. And there's been a topic that's been on my mind the last couple weeks that I wanted to touch on today. And that's Andrew Wylie, or should I say the perceived improvement of Andrew Wylie this season. Now, I've gone through all the snaps from this season so far, and I've pulled everything out that really caught my eye one way or the other. Sometimes it's like a, is that positive, is that negative play? But I pulled all of the things out that caught my eye, and I want to use all of those, moments to prove a point one way or the other. Has Andrew Wylie improved, or, has he not? Now, one thing I do want to point out before I start, Wylie hasn't given up any sacks this year, and as far as I know, he definitely gave up a ton last year, but I believe that he's given up. He's up there in terms of total given up the last couple years in the entire league. I know Washington as a team unit gave up the second most sacks last year. At any rate, that's it. Let's just hop right into the film. Now, on this very first play, the tight end gets a decent little tap on the edge rusher as he's going out. And then Wylie's able to pick up protection from that point. And while the defender looks like he just goes a little too wide on this right here with his rip, and he does make a decent little chop on Wylie there. You can't really see it. But while he does do all of that, I love how Wylie is, the second that he looks like he might actually fall in on the quarterback or do anything with that play at all, Wylie just dives on him and just smothers him. You can really see it in real time. Watch him. Like, to the ground you go. Granted, part of that just could be leverage, but he definitely drove him to the ground right there, when the man was on his knees. And I kind of like to see that from my lineman. I want to see a guy who's, aggressive, who's going to put his man to the dirt when he needs to. It kind of sends a message. I know that there's somebody out there that's going to say, oh, that doesn't need to be done. But you know what? Yeah, it does. Every once in a while, you need to put the man's face in the dirt and let him know that you're boss. I mean, they are playing football. You watch it back from this angle, you can't really see a whole lot from this angle, but you can definitely see that Wylie puts a block on him there, kind of pushes him to the outside, and then just dives on him. When I first saw this play right here, I actually thought that Wylie had pancaked this man on his own. But when I watched the replay back, I saw that Cosme had pushed him when he was trying to make his move around the corner, which is just fine with me because that man hit the ground. Of course, Wylie landed on top of him. Like I said, it had the appearance on television of being a pancake. I'd actually marked this down in my notes as a pancake right here, and it's not. Still fun to watch Cosme and Wylie come together on the offensive line over here. The right side is actually starting to be, a strong point of the team at points, or at times, I should say. This next play I saw a couple people on Twitter talking about it. And I saw one of my longtime commenters actually made a comment on my video talking about another show had talked about it. But this was the other play that I had marked down as Wylie getting a pancake. And he actually does get a pancake on this one. And they're out in the wide open over here on the right side of the field. And he catches his man up trying to do something here and get overall leverage up top over him or something here. Catches his man up and is able to drive him to the ground. But Wylie not only drives this man to the ground, he continues on. I mean, the play is pretty much over here. Like I said before, I kind of like to see this from offensive linemen, but if you stop and look for a second, the play is right here. Terry has caught the ball, and Wylie lands on him right there for the second time, for the second little hit. And you see the man's legs kick up in the air. That's how you know that he's definitely been flattened. Watch it back in real time from this direction. You'll see Van Noy's legs kick up at the end right here. It's kind of funny, actually. Humorous, I should say. Right there at the end, though, as Van Noy loses his footing, he tries to crab out of it, as you see, though. And Wylie's not having none of that. My absolute favorite part of this play, though, is when Cosme and the other linemen all celebrate the pancake and run over there jumping up and down. That, to me, that's worth the price of admission right there. One thing I definitely have noticed is that having a mobile quarterback has definitely saved the team from giving up a ton of sacks in certain situations. And this is just another example right here of it. And Wylie's able to take and just kind of push his man into another man that's coming through the line over there that Jayden is running away from. And Wylie just kind of pushes his man right into him. You know, as I've said before, I've had several offensive line coaches in the past tell me, I don't care what you do as long as the man doesn't get to the ball. Like, do whatever you got to do, and pushing one man into another definitely fits that criteria. This is one of those plays, I will say, though, already over there, if Jayden isn't that dynamic of a runner, already gives that sack up right there, definitely. Like, that man's still only an arm away from getting him, and then right before Wylie pushes his man into him. One thing I love in a football player is somebody that doesn't give up on the play. You know, they keep moving, keep on trucking as the play keeps going. And I love the design of this play right here for Wylie to to make it look like it's one thing, and then of course break off. And he doesn't stop until he finds somebody to hit. And while his hit doesn't actually free up any yardage, it definitely takes a man to the ground. You know what I mean? Oddly enough, it's not even the guy that he hit that goes to the ground. The guy that he hit actually somehow or another makes an arm tackle there, but the other guy, the number 2 right there, he actually ends up in Wylie's kind of like possession, so to speak. Listen, what I'm trying to point out here is the hustle. I like to see the hustle. This is actually a perfectly blocked path right here for the touchdown run. And you'll see Sennett, you'll see Bates, and you'll see Wylie, all 3 doing their job right here. And Wylie gets his block in, pushes his man sideways. Sennett gets his cut in, which I'm telling you, this guy's going to be known for that right there. And then right down here, downfield, you can see Bates gets his block in. Boom. Kind of takes 2 guys out at once right there. And from that point, you can see that's how the touchdown. He goes in there unscathed. You watch it back from this direction in real time. It actually is a thing of beauty. Perfectly executed. Touchdown. As Wylie's man comes around the edge, watch how far he pushes him. And he goes completely off screen. You catch it back from this direction. I'm not so certain. Some quarterbacks maybe take the sack right here, but Jayden's able to read that pressure, and Wylie pushing his man out. Jayden's able to run out here, try to reestablish. When he doesn't see what he likes, he takes off running. Whole point is Wylie plays this perfectly by pushing that man out like that. While he appears to be beaten, the fact that Jayden is that type of quarterback, allows him to be able to push that man outside, and then the play works out perfectly because he stands there and waits for the man, to reestablish, but he doesn't have to because Jayden takes off. Now, while this film is on Wylie, it's kind of hard, not to see what's going on the other side of the line over there. And on this particular play right here, I do believe that Wylie pushed his man just far enough, even though I do think his man was able to get a hand in there and touch that ball. But pushing his man out wide doesn't work as well on this play as it did in other plays. Like I said, it looks like the ball gets tapped a little bit right there. And at the same time, Wylie can't control what the rest of the line's doing, because at the point he's trying to push his guy backwards, Jayden's really left with nowhere to go. Like, he can't go left, he can't go up the middle, and the right was compromised there for a couple seconds, and he's looking downfield. So Jayden in effect gets sacked here. Now, it's not Wylie's man that makes the sack. That's why this sack does not fall on Wylie. So Zadarius Smith actually picks up the sack here, because Wylie's not, he didn't do the worst job in this situation. I'm not going to say he did a great job, but he pushed his man wide, which is what his job is to do at this point. Once that man comes out the corner there, it's debatable whether or not he actually touched the ball. I think he may have, but if he did, you can't really put that all on Wylie. That's just a good play on the ball, but at the same time, the rest of the line has to step up and do their job too. The dynamic quarterback's not going to always save you in every situation. I love the timing of this smack right here. Like, you know, as the ball's going off to the left, and this is at the end of the game here. Like, the game is out of touch. Mariota is in the game, but he smacks him right on the back. He's like, you know, get out. And the dude falls straight to the ground, takes the other man out with him. I mean, I know it means nothing. It's just fun to watch, you know. It's something I've already touched on already about having the dynamic quarterback and having that, you know, change everything pretty much. Whereas last year, a lot of these would have been taken as sacks. You know, this year you have a different element in this game. Not only, you know, the read options here, which obviously that end right there just completely bid on with Jayden going to the outside here. But Wylie is able to recover on this play right here with JOK closing in on Daniels. Daniels is dynamic enough that he's able to make a little stutter step and a nice little plant and a juke move and lose JOK in the mix. And then Wylie is able to pick him right back up. Now, Jayden only gets back to the line of scrimmage or maybe a yard or so out of this. But the whole point I was trying to make here is to see Wylie, you know, reestablish and get a block in. This is an example to me, anyway, of by rhyme or crime, whatever you got to do to take that man out or one man out on that offensive line, that defensive line, however you want to look at it, take a man out the mix by rhyme or crime. And that's what he does right here. He doesn't really get all that great of a block, and the play doesn't really even, you know, go anywhere near him. He gets his feet caught up underneath of him. I believe Vita Vea and him kind of like cross things up there. He falls over and takes out Vea in the process. Now, like I said, the play scoots out to the side here because Coleman's unable to really do a whole lot with the space he's given over here to the side. 52 makes an advance on Jayden Daniels. Daniels has to do something with his play. So, you know, he takes off. So this play really doesn't come into any kind of factoring at all with Wylie and his decisions at all and his, you know, his footwork, whatever. But by rhyme or by crime, he took a man out of the equation. And that's all you can ask of him. You know, I made mention of the dynamic quarterback aspects. Now, one other thing that I'd like to point out about Wylie is that he did spend some time over in Kansas City, and all the sack totals for offensive tackles out there are generally elevated because of the way that Mahomes extends plays to the very last second, which means he ends up taking quite a few sacks, and it ends up blowing up the numbers, or it did for a couple years there when Wylie was there. And, you know, I think that this is an example of a play like that where, you know, a player like Jayden, who's going to get better at this, you know, only get better at this as he goes, but a player like Jayden is able to move around in the pocket, while I believe Wylie is actually doing a hell of a job over here on his guy. He makes sure that his man does nothing in this play at all. But the point is that eventually, you know, that man breaks the block. I mean, if he's able to stand out there for 4, 5, 6 seconds, you know, like that's an eternity in terms of what these guys can do without being called for holding or whatever the case may be. And then Wylie's able to push that guy down right as he gets around anyway. So it isn't like he's able to really do anything with the pursuit that he gets. But the whole point I'm trying to make here is that it's good to see that he's not giving up on plays and he's still working at the end right here all the way to the end of the play. This is some of what I saw on his film when he was in Kansas City. You know, him doing a lot of with Mahomes kind of like, you know, moving around in the backside of the pocket, not so much, you know, forward and getting yardage, more so backwards and moving around. Everybody that's watched Mahomes knows that's, you know, he's like the king of moving, you know, side to side and getting rid of the ball and finding ways to make weird passes. But yeah, I mean, I think that's actually pretty good of Wylie right there to put that man to the ground, and he doesn't make any play on the ball right there, even though he does get around Wylie right here with a good little chop and a good little, you know, little move to the outside. Anytime that, you know, you're an offensive lineman and you're out there and you're blocking other guys that are actually bigger than you and you're 6 foot, you know, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and 280, 290 to 320 pounds, whatever your range is, going against these defenders who are, future WWE superstars, coming at you completely amped up and charged, ready to just tear your head off every play. And you can somehow or another hold them and, disallow them from just completely terrorizing the play. And then as the play starts to break down, your quarterback starts to get around, you can kind of like, put a little push on the guy to make sure that he doesn't really do as much as maybe he could before. Although in this play, maybe he doesn't get as big a push as normal. I think you kind of can say that you can't really do a whole lot more than that. I guess maybe you could say that you would want, or you would hope for him to be able to establish a little bit better, to have Jayden run around the side there. But, like I said, man, those defensive guys, those defensive linemen, a lot of them would just stand up there and just hold their guy until the play starts to break down like he did right there, and they just spin them like they're nothing. Against a less dynamic quarterback, this could have went down as a sack right here. If you watch it in real time, you'll see what I'm saying. Wylie does struggle with him a little bit. One thing that Wylie does actually pretty well is pull, and this play right here is a good example of that, as he just completely destroys the safety right here. I mean, just lands on him and everything. Like, 31 had no chance of having any part of this play right here. Like, I always hear everybody say low man wins, like, all the time. Not in this game, fellas. Although an argument could be said that the ball didn't go no further after that either. I'm not really sure how to score this one right here against Burns to say if Wylie really won this one, quote unquote, or not, because Burns is able to get around him, even though he's not really able, to get to the quarterback, which Thibodeau does from the other direction, which I've said before, this looks dangerous. This is the kind of play your quarterback gets hurt on right here, with the rookie over there, Coleman, not able to hold his man, Thibodeau. But I'm not sure if you look at this as a win or a loss here, because Jayden gets, the ball away, well before Wylie's guy gets around him, but Wylie's guy does get around him. On this play right here, Wylie is able to hold his man long enough to have, the play pretty much develop right on his heels, and have Brian Robinson Jr. come up and kind of cut to the left of him and make, an extra, I'd say an extra 3 or 4 yards out of this. And if it wasn't for Wylie's ability to be able to hold his man up right here while everybody else is kind of off to the right there, this play never happens. He doesn't gain an extra 2-3 yards, whatever he gained there. 7 quarterbacks out of 8 get sacked on this play right here. But Wylie does get beat around the corner right here, and Jayden is the one that makes this play, not turn into a sack. So anybody out there that's saying, well, he doesn't have any sacks given up, that's because his quarterback is Jayden Daniels. That's why. 7 quarterbacks out of 8, hell, maybe even 30 or 31 out of 32 quarterbacks are taking a sack on this play right here. I've given several examples of the arm shove blocks and how they've worked actually. This play right here, he runs up at 0 and just pushes him right into the tackle. I mean, obviously, he didn't mean to push his man into the tackle sequence, but that's what happened. Another example of if, Washington doesn't have Jayden Daniels, then, this goes down as a sack right here on Andrew Wylie, not being able to contain his man. Now, this could go down as a sack also because of the way that Jayden Daniels runs as well right here. But he had no choice as the pocket was collapsing on the other side. He already had to move out. And 54 comes in, and Wylie puts a hand on him, but that's about all he can do. And the major reason is because right before that, he was kind of putting an arm on 55 right there, helping out a little double team. It was a good blitz by the Cardinals right here. But if 54 is able to get his hands on Jayden Daniels, as you see, he just can't. This is a sack. You can look at it 2 different ways. Either you could say, well, Wylie's able to push him right there. I don't know if you can really see that or not, but Wylie is able to give him a little shove. Kind of looks like he shoves him towards him at first, but maybe that shove is what, threw 54 off enough to where he couldn't grab Jayden. Either way, Jayden Daniels running for his life, and his dynamic ability is what kept him from being sacked right there. And he completed the pass. I mean, yeah. What's not to like about this kid, right? Run for his life and make the play. You know, I talked about this play after we played the Browns. This is a good example of Wylie having too much to control or too much to handle over here on the side. And as I've already pointed out, you know, these NFL linemen are just unbelievable athletes. You know, the Cleveland Browns have a couple of guys over there that are just unreal. And Jayden does some magic here by escaping this somehow and, you know, running out in the middle of the field and getting open. And I'm not really sure how he did that. He just dumped some magic dust down and took off, man. Like, he makes everybody miss on this play. And, yeah, I'm sure that Wylie probably isn't too proud of this moment right here, but there's not much he can do. I mean, he's completely overpowered here. You know, unless you played the position, nobody will ever know how tough playing offensive line actually is. And at the NFL level, against guys that are extreme athletes at extreme size, you know, I can't even imagine how tough it is, especially when you're playing guys like, you know, Myles Garrett and, you know, Zadarius Smith. Guys like that, you know, probably give these gentlemen freaking nightmares, you know, heading into games. You know, in this play right here, probably one of the worst scenarios for an offensive lineman happens as he trips over his running back, and in the process, it kills this play completely. But as you see, he trips over the running back. He can't recover. You know, several guys are all over him in the process. And if it wasn't for the fact that this being a planned run, he'd be accredited for a sack allowed right here. And another example of if he wasn't a dynamic player, this definitely would have been a sack. Wylie was overmatched right here, and his man just gets around him to the inside, just a nice little stab to the shoulder, and just goes inward, and there's nothing Wylie can do about it. Thankfully, Jayden is able to get away on this play right here. Watch it back in real time. Yeah, I mean, Wylie just couldn't do nothing with that, man. Here's another example of the same player doing something completely different with Andrew, but getting, you know, kind of the same outcome, even though Wylie's able to do enough maybe to kind of like sculpt around this, so to speak. You know, as Zero makes his pursuit here, the quarterback, he goes in where Jayden's able to jump out. See, that's what saves him right there, is Jayden's dynamic ability to be able to move with the ball in his hand. And Wylie's able to reestablish and drop a little bit of a block right there. So you could call this a positive and a negative on this play right here. As the negative obviously is he loses his man inside. Jayden gets rattled, has to take off. But the positive is that he's able to kind of like step in and keep Zero from doing anything there. Although I guess a naysayer might step in and say, yeah, but he got away with a block in the back, which, hey, I see all kinds of things going on with those defenders against the offensive line here. So we're just going to shut our mouths and move to the next play. And here's another example of what I just showed here. You know, and it should be said that Burns is an unbelievable pass rusher. But if it wasn't for Sam Cosmi stepping in and kind of getting away with a little push in the back there, and Jayden's dynamic ability to move again, this goes down as a sack. I mean, check out Brian Burns, though. Like, he has a really good spin move. Look at that. Yeah, I mean, if Wylie's not guilty of the hold right there by grabbing his jersey, which he kind of had to do, but if he's not guilty of grabbing that jersey right there, Cosmi's definitely guilty of pushing him in the back there, even though I'm not so certain that he really had to, because Jayden had him already beat there before Cosmi ever even lands on him or lands the hit on him, although you could say that Burns could have made a move outward there and made the tackle. And as you see there at the end there, the Zebra does throw the laundry. At any rate, you know, going back to the original question of has Andrew Wylie improved? I think the answer is yes, and maybe, you know, he hasn't changed, but so much. This guy is one of the top paid tackles in the game. So while I am ready to say that he has improved, I'm also sitting here telling you that I need him to play at a higher level. I mean, as one of the top tier guys, or as being paid as one of the top tier guys, he definitely needs to show what he can do on the field. Now, he's also faced some top tier guys this season and hasn't given up a single sack. Now, that is, you know, as a result of who the quarterback is and maybe the situations were. But he's faced Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Trey Hendrickson, and Kyle Van Noy. You know, these guys are at the top tier of the sack chart of the league, you know, or have consistently been top tier guys for several years now. So it's not like he's facing a whole handful of chumps. He's actually facing the top tier guys, or some of the top tier guys. But at the same time, there is some negative film there, and without Jayden, we might be talking a different story here. Thankfully, we aren't. Those that may have watched videos of me talking about Andrew Wylie before, which I'll link one in the upper right-hand corner right now, know that I have always looked at this guy and said, what in the hell are they spending this kind of money for? He's not good. And I have to sit and kind of scratch my head a little bit and wonder if maybe, just maybe, it was the scheme, which a few of us, including myself, were saying we didn't understand what was going on here. Because look, you had Eric Bieniemy come over, and one of the guys that he wanted to bring with him was Andrew Wylie. So in retrospect, you had to have known in your brain, okay, so Bieniemy knows what that guy can do and what he can't do. So why would he set him up week after week in situations that he knew he couldn't control, or whatever the case may be? I just don't understand, man. It all keeps pointing back to Eric Bieniemy was not a pro-level offensive coordinator. He did not do the job well. Ultimately, that's probably Ron Rivera's final mistake, was allowing him to take over the offense and then not pulling the reins back a little bit on him when he needed to. And that's not to take anything away from Sam Howell, you know. It makes Sam Howell look like he's just a toad or whatever, but I mean, Jayden Daniels is a dynamic player. Like, one of the most dynamic rookies I've ever seen, if not the most dynamic rookie I've ever seen. A guy that can do everything. So it's not to hit at Sam Howell, you know, it's just to hit at the fact that Wylie looks better for several different reasons, and one of them definitely is the quarterback. Am I ready to walk back comments I made last year? No, I am not. I will say, though, that I am slightly impressed in this season versus last. Maybe it's because the staff is, you know, letting Wylie play to his strengths. I've also seen them lining him up quite a bit at the left tackle position when they stack, you know, the formation up a lot. Interestingly enough, he seems to do just fine over at left tackle as well. Just food for thought in case they ever need somebody to shift over. But anyway, guys, do me a favor, reach up there and hit that thumbs up button. It doesn't cost a single dime, but I promise you it definitely helps the channel, the video, and everything else out. I noticed that we don't have a lot of donators in the community, and that's just fine. I mean, it's hard times for everybody, including myself. But if you can't donate anything, you know, hit that thumbs up. Sometimes that's all it takes, man. You hit that thumbs up, it pushes the video in a different direction. I wanted to take a second and tell every single one of y'all that I appreciate you guys. Without each of you watching these videos, there would be no reason for me to come on here and make them. As always, let me know what you're thinking down in the comments. I don't really hear a lot of conversation going on down there anymore, but you know, those of you that do come down there and make comments, I do see them. That's the reason why I make sure to react at least to every single one of them, and to respond, I think, whenever I have something to say. Sometimes the comment speaks for itself, and you guys might be smarter than me, so it is what it is. But that's about all I got. Y'all take it easy. Peace.